Shabbat Shalom Lekulam. Here I'm back again with a new story, a new Parasha, which is a Parasha VAYIGASH, which is from the book of Bereshit. He drew near, and we're going to explain. The Parasha goes from Bereshit 44:18 to 47:27, and after is about the book of Yechezkiel 37:15 to 28. So we are back with a story from Joseph, and we try to learn and to understand what is going on in the life of Joseph in the light of Yeshua. There is a connection, direct connection between what happened to Joseph, which represents the kingdom of earth, and Yeshua, which represents the kingdom of heaven. How to bring heaven and earth together. And this is something which is very, very interesting. When we started to learn about the life of Joseph in the previous Parasha, we saw the challenge of Joseph, which also is the challenge of Yeshua, and I will elaborate. But before that, I want to emphasize again that when we study Torah, it's not to impress others or to point out to others their own mistake. Learning Torah is for ourselves. We learn Torah in order to be transformed, as the beloved Shaul Paul says in Romans 12, verse 2, I beseech you, brethren, do not be conformed to this world, the world we are living now, yes, the world which is around ourselves, the world and their crooked governments, but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind. Not the mind of your neighbors, your mind. We need to understand that when we dig into the Torah, is to see the deepest place of our own soul. Yes, the neshama. We need to apply the Torah in our life, as all our forefathers did. Not only our forefathers, but also all the kedoshim in the Torah, all those who were set apart, like Moshe, like David, and like many others, Yehoshua, the son of Nun, Caleb, and many others, who have taken the challenge of life to live this present time, not for themselves, but for the purpose they are sent into the earth. Because this earth is called to pass away, and everything in it will pass away. So, but those who are in Yehoshua will be preserved. And we have to understand that the Torah gives us a clue about the end of the story. So many, when you talk with them, we go to the book of Revelation and explain you the end time. It is amazing that when you go to the library and you choose a book to read, you don't go to the last chapter to know the book. No, you start to read the first chapter and you go step by step to the end of the story, and the last chapter is a conclusion. So why now majority, I say majority, not all, but majority of people, when they want to speak about end time, go to the book of Revelation? That is really a question mark. When we know that in the book of Yeshayahu, I think it's chapter 46, Jehovah said himself, I speak the end from the beginning. Not from the book of Revelation, from the beginning. Beginning is Bereshit. So the book is called, the first book is called Bereshit. The book of the beginning. So if I want to know what will happen in the end, I have to dig into this book, the book of Bereshit, and learn about the patriarchs and their life, what is going on, and I will know what will be at the end. We know here in this Parasha, VAYIGASH, the work of Joseph as a shadow of Mashiach and the reunification of all Israel. Now, I encourage everyone, as I encourage myself since years, to understand that the truth is in the Torah, not outside the Torah. So people, some who are very smart, intellectual, will tell you a beautiful story, but if you research yourself about the book of Revelation, you may have a different approach. Because what we have all ignored in our work is to look at the historical fact. Historical facts help us to understand the context. It doesn't help us to understand the meaning, but the context. And the context is very, very important to understand what was going on in the time of Yeshua. And before and after his death and his resurrection. Now, do not forget that there was not all peace, but there was a lot of trouble in this time. And I just give you a short example. I spoke this morning with my wife. When in the book of Acts, chapter 1, when Yeshua tell his disciple to stay in Jerusalem, for in a few days they will receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Why does he say that? Why does he say to stay in Jerusalem? It's very simple. The answer is very simple. Because they were not from Jerusalem. They were from Galilee. They were from Galilee. So they came here for Shavuot. They were tourists, if you want. They were visitors, if you want. They were not living in Jerusalem. Because in Jerusalem, there was a lot of, how can I say, a lot of deformation of the Torah. And so the truth was no more in Jerusalem. The truth was with Yeshua. And Yeshua was the preservator of the truth. He was, like we call him, the living Torah. The Torah which is embodied in a person. So we need to know the context. And if you search for context, you may be surprised about the book of Revelation and the mindset of the Jewish mindset of the first century, which lead to another conclusion, which is totally different than the one we have today. Do not forget that what we hear today about the Antichrist, about all these things, is new. It's a new approach. It's not older than 100 years old. So I will make a video on this topic, but I go back now to the parasha from today. Today we have Joseph. Excuse me. You know that Yeshua is called also son of Joseph. It's very interesting because it's a play on word. The father from Joshua was Joseph, the husband of Miriam. And I see the father, the physical father. Physical father. Okay? The spiritual father of Yeshua was Yehovah, Elohim. But the physical father was Joseph. You may not like it, you may not agree, that's no problem. But if you want to, you can question, you can ask me question, I will answer. Or you can go to my blog and I have explained that why I do believe that that Yeshua was born of a natural way between Joseph and Miriam. And we can take it in the text to have proof of it. And we can go deeper to understand the virgin birth and all the situation, what was around the birth of Yeshua. Now, Joseph is the same. Joseph was the son from Jacob. I've been separated from his father 20 years. It's very, very interesting because numbers in the Torah are very important. So we see that Joseph, in the Parasha Miketz, we see that Joseph went down in his personal life in order to raise above everyone on earth beside Pharaoh. The only one who was above him was Pharaoh. But he had all authority over the earth. Mitzrayim represents the world system in a spiritual way. If you understand that, we will know that what we are living today is the same. Mitzrayim is the whole world. We have many pharaohs. They are leading us the same way. In the time of Moshe, we will see in the coming parasha that Pharaoh, the wicked Pharaoh, gave the children of Israel to build. He gave them a task. Today the task is to pay taxes in many countries, to put the people into bondage, slavery. So the shadow is there. Now, Joseph was sent, and we know from the parasha, was sent by Elohim to preserve a remnant. That is the purpose of Joseph's life. And Joseph was wise enough to recognize his work, that it was not a punishment to him, that he was not, but it was a reparation and a preservation of the red man, the house of Jacob. So this shows us, first of all, that the house of Israel will one day be reunited. Yehuda and Ephraim, the house of Israel, will once again be one. You can read that in Yechezkel 37. You can read in different places to understand. But Joseph is a center pillar of the action, which is the work of Yeshua. Joseph went down to Mitzrayim. Yehoshua went to the Goyim, disguised as Jesus. Joseph was as Pinrat Paneach. He was hidden into his clothes, his pagan clothes, that the brethren do not recognize him. This is similar what's happened today with Judah, Yehuda. The same way. And Yeshua had to go into the nation, the Goyim, in order to preserve a remnant, exactly like Joseph. Joseph went in Egypt to preserve the seed of Jacob, and from there to start again. Now, we need to understand that for us, because when we read the Parasha in the first level, that's the Pshat level, the literal, we have a story of Joseph and his brethren. But do not forget that there was, when they sold Joseph, they had an animosity against Joseph. They wanted to kill him. Who killed Yehoshua? Not Judah. Some people killed him because it disturbed their own view, because of hatred. Hatred toward Joseph, hatred toward Yehoshua. You see, that is a parallel we have. And Joseph went down in the darkness until he came out. He said in the parasha that he stayed 2 more years in jail. These 2 more years represent 2,000 years between the first coming and the second coming of Yeshua. When he came out, it was because the Pharaoh had a dream, and these dreams are very deep. to understand, because we have in a spiritual way to understand that Jehovah gave a dream to Pharaoh. Pharaoh considered himself to be God. He said in the book of Ezekiel, he said that it is, I want to read it, let me go there, because I want to show you something which is very interesting. I want to show you the attitude of Joseph, of Pharaoh. We go there, just let me 2 seconds, and you will see. No. Just wait, I just want. No, it's not this passage, it's a story, but it's still a passage when Pharaoh said that he has made the Nile for himself. So you see, he considered to be God, the creator. But here we see in this vision, in this dream, that Jehovah gave him a dream that he cannot understand. And this dream is very complex, because we see the good cows and the lean cows, and we see the second dream, which are the same, because they point out to the same story of the famine that will occur in Mitzrayim. Now, I will not go more inside this. I want to go back to the fact that Joseph was there to preserve life, as we read in Bereshit 45:5, and to preserve a remnant in the earth, to keep alive in Bereshit 45:7. We read in Bereshit 45, we read. In 45:5 we read, let me put it in English because you will not understand. Okay. And now do not be grieved nor displeased, Joseph speaking to his brethren, with yourself, because you sold me here, for Elohim sent me before you to preserve life. This might sound familiar with the situation with Yehoshua. For 2 years now, 2 years, the scarcity of food has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there is neither plowing nor harvesting. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to give life to you by a great escape. So you see here, Joseph knew and tell his brethren, that's not my work, it is Elohim's purpose for you to preserve a remnant. Now, many today do not understand the position of Yehuda and the position of the Messianic. You know, they are fighting. Oh, I don't want to learn from the Jew, they don't know Jesus, they don't believe Yeshua. How can we go with them? That is absolutely wrong. Because we have two purposes. If you look very carefully, then you will see that Yehuda is building on earth. Messianics, following Yeshua, building in heaven. Both must come together. And it will come together when Mashiach comes back. It's not your work, my work. It is the work of Yeshua. When Yeshua comes back, he will bring both heaven and earth to connect. At this time, you can read in Yeshayahu 11, there will be no more competition between Ephraim, the house of Israel, and Yehuda, because we will recognize one another as we are children of the living Elohim, Yehuda and Ephraim. And all was done for a purpose. Shaul knew, when he wrote to the Romans, he knew that this was the will of Elohim. As we can read, very interesting here, he said in Romans 11:15, for if their rejection, Yehuda, is the reconciliation of the world, what will the acceptance be but life from the dead, resurrection? I said then, they did not stumble so as to fall, did they? May it never be. But by their transgression, salvation has come to the Goim, the nations called Gentiles, to make them jealous. Now, if their transgression is riches for the world, and the failure is rich for the Goim, how much more will the fulfillment be? So, here we see that there is a purpose in the fact that Yehuda failed, transgressed, fell short. Yet this happened with the rejection of Yehoshua. Do not forget that in the first century, thousands of Jews, I repeat, thousands of Jews, no Christians, forget your scripture in English. There is no Christians in this time, no Christianity. Thousands of Jews follow Yeshua. Thousands. But the majority rejected him. Today, if you look into Jewish teaching, they will tell you that the temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred. And this baseless hatred, they don't have the answer where is the baseless hatred toward what. But the baseless hatred was toward Yehoshua and those who follow him. They didn't accept him because they have already a concept in their mind. This is why we are in danger if we don't want to learn from others and to listen, because we have our own concept in our mind. They had a concept that the Mashiach will come and will deliver them from the oppression of the Romans, and he will bring the lost tribes back to the land. That's what they concept. But they did ignore that there was another purpose. The purpose started with Yehuda himself. Yehuda as a nation, with the tshuva, repentance. This is what Yeshua said in the beginning. When he began his ministry following Yohanan HaMatpil, Yohanan the Immerser, what does Yeshua say? Repent, shuv, the kingdom of heaven is near. That was a message from Yeshua as a prophet like Moshe. And all his life in the earth, he proclaimed that. He went to preach the Bezorah. The good news is that the kingdom is at hand. They didn't hear to him. Only some thousands of people were listening. And when they killed him, it was the end of the story. This is when we see Joseph, who is thrown into the pit in the previous parasha and sold to Mitzrayim. Sold, which is absolutely wrong, because he cannot be sold as a slave because he was a free man. Yehoshua is a free man, and he has to go to the darkness. The darkness is the world. Mitzrayim is darkness. The world today is darkness. Where do you find Yeshua or Jesus? You find him in the darkness, among the Goyim. That's what the purpose of Elohim. Elohim sent Yeshua in disguise as Jesus into the world for what? For what? We have to ask ourselves, for what? I remember that one day I posted, I say, Jesus and Yeshua are the same, And I was attacked by many who told me, I don't understand, I am out of mind, it's not possible. What is the problem? When Joseph, he came to save a remnant. Remnant. This remnant in this world today is found among the what we call Christianity, in majority. In majority. This is what was done when the church was created by Constantine. Without knowing it, Constantine was working for a plan which is much greater than himself. He was working so that a remnant inside the Christianity will be preserved. You and me and many thousands who have lived Christianity to turn back to the truth, to turn back, to return, to shuv, to make teshuvah, to turn back to the Torah. If you have come to the Torah, it is because it was the plan of Elohim. Not your plan, not my plan. It was the plan of Elohim. And this is what we have in Joseph. Joseph was sent to Mitzrayim to preserve a remnant for Elohim, so that the work of Elohim can be keep going through the 12 tribes with what we know, the failure that will come later, and until today. So, but nevertheless, we see the greatness of Joseph, which reflect the greatness of Yahushua, who sit at the right hand of Elohim until death will be put under his feet. So that is the point. We see Joseph ruling over the whole world. Mitzrayim is the whole world at this time. Mitzrayim, Egypt, was a powerful nation. It was the most powerful nation, like we will see later, with Babylon, with Medo-Persia, with Greeks, with Rome. The same. So when we read the text, we have to understand what I'm reading here. It's about myself. It's about our salvation. It's about the remnant who will be saved by Yahushua. The same. If we look at the parallel, you have a lot of parallel in this portion, like we have in general in all Parasha, parallel with the teaching of Shaul, the teaching of Yahushua himself, the teaching of Yohanan, the teaching of Kepha, and much more. So when we look at this parasha, we have to be aware that we read about our own salvation. You see, look here. I read a commentary from First Lord of Zion. Paul saw the Jewish estrangement from Mashiach as a necessary part of a divinely ordained plan, whereby Elohim extends salvation to the entire world. In this regard, the Jewish estrangement from Mashiach closely mirrors the events in Joseph's story. Paul considered that Israel has stumbled, though not fallen, but he insisted that even the nation stumbling plays a part of Elohim's plan, just as Joseph and his brother ultimately reunited and reconciled. Paul said that all Israel will be saved as it is written. All Israel will be saved as it is written in Yeshayahu 59, 20-21. The deliverer will come from Zion. He will remove ungodliness from Yaakov. This is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. Paul did not suppose that all Israel must wait until the culmination of the age before entering into reconciliation with the Mashiach. He maintained that just as Jehovah preserved a remnant of his people in the past, with Joseph, so too a remnant had recognized King Mashiach. Again, the discussion seemed to allude to the story of Joseph. When we read, Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. Paul added, in the same way then, there has also come to be, at the present time, a remnant according to Elohim's gracious choice. So you see, there is a parallel between the story of Yeshua and the story of Joseph. So when we learn the Torah, it is to transform ourselves, to bring a balance in our midos. Midos are the character traits that we need to change, we need to transform. And this is our work. The work, when Shaul writes and says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, it is our personal work. I will not work for my neighbor, I work on my own nefesh, my own soul, to be transformed. And if I do it, I will grow and become mature man, ready when Mashiach comes back. Are you willing to do that? Then you have to do the same, to dig into the Torah, to pray and pray and pray for real change in our life. It's not about my brother's problem, it's not about my sister's problems toward me, it is about my problem with myself, with my flesh. The flesh is bound to the earth. Shaul say, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim. Yeshua say, I am not from this world. My kingdom is from above. So we have to understand that. Yes, we are living on earth, but that is fleshly. But we can already have a taste of the heavenly if we are able to have a spiritual life. So we need to grow. We need to deal with ourselves, all what we have learned. Joseph, it took 20 years for him. He was raised in Jacob's house. We read in a previous parasha that he was the favorite from Jacob. You can imagine, when you are the favorite in the house, the father gives you special attention. Like we see, he make him a special cloth of multicolors. We see that. So Joseph had an easy life until, by the will of Elohim, he was sent to Mitzrayim. Jehovah did not stop the action of the brethren. He didn't stop. Because when something happens in our life, we have to understand that Elohim knows what is going on in our life. I don't say that Elohim's doing, I say Elohim knows what is going on in our life. All our decisions will bring us in a situation. In spite of that, Elohim is always with us. If we keep the way, if we keep our heart through Yeshua. So we don't have to worry. If we have gone into a situation, we know, as the sages of old say, that nothing happens on the earth that is not known to Elohim. Everything. If you are coming to a struggle, if you are coming in a bad situation, just give thanks to Elohim. For everything works for good to those who love Elohim. At the end, we have the victory. So you may go through a bad time, like Joseph. Joseph spent 20 years, he was separated from his father, he was separated from his brethren. And he was struggling with himself. But he never lost hope. His hope was not on earth. His hope was in Elohim. What he received from his father, teaching of his father. So today, we need to have the same attitude. We need to be like Joseph. We need to stand in our situation. I don't know your situation, but I know what I go through, what I went through, and how Elohim is able to deliver us and to use the situation to glorify himself. So, brothers and sisters, do not worry about your situation now. This situation is called to be changed. It's called to be changed. You just have to trust Jehovah. Trust Jehovah and endure. Endure because it is for our good. Every time we endure, it is for our good. And Joseph didn't know when he came to Mitzrayim, he didn't know that 22 years later, 20 years later, he will sit at the right hand of Pharaoh. He didn't know. He had to go first through the challenge of life to be transformed and stand for truth. So my brother and sister, we are the same. When we go through challenges, we don't know what will be tomorrow, but Elohim knows. And it will be for the best. That you can be sure. It will be for the best. All the remnant will be saved. So I hope this message is for you. It will help you to understand and to keep your faith, your emunah, your trust in Jehovah and to walk. Amen. So I wish you a blessed Shavua and see you the next Shabbat. Shalom, lekulam.